Hey, Andy, so good to see you. Thanks so much for being here today.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I appreciate
Yeah,
the invite.
I've been really looking forward to having this conversation with you, especially as a CDRE that's so complementary to the CDLP. And I know we've had, conversations around that and the synergy of all that. Can you
Sure.
introduce your name, tell us where you are and your, area of practice?
Yes. So my name is Andee Phillips. It's Andy with two E's, Phillips with two L's. I live in Bend, Oregon. I have been here for over 30 years. So a definite Bendite. I practice, I'm in residential real estate. I'm a realtor, have been for 8 years. My niche would be divorce real estate. I'm a certified divorce real estate expert. And then also um, have a separate niche in senior real estate. And sometimes senior real estate and divorce real estate overlap each other. So I tend to do the transactions that most people don't want to. They are very emotionally draining. They are very stressful, and I flourish in those areas. So they have become a little pocket for myself.
I love that. I mean, you're just supporting people across the board, right? In the areas that they really need it in these life transitions. So
Mhm.
you're staying true to your purpose.
Yes, very much so.
Can you just share what led you to specialize as a real estate agent to get, the pretty intensive CDRE certification in the specialty of, in the niche of family planning and family law?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it was not something I actively was striving for, but when the pandemic first hit and we were, all forced to live with each other, I had some friends and friends of friends kind of reach out and say, hey, we're in a position where this is not working for us anymore. And, we want to make a split and we want to, we need to get divorced and move from there. And so, they were reaching out to me and saying things like, we feel like you're never in any sort of, drama with friends that we know, or because we were just kind of a little bit connected. No one was like an immediate, friend. And so I said, yeah, I don't need to be in all your drama. I can absolutely help you sell your home. And I went about it the way traditional real estate told me to. And I learned fast and hard that that was not the way I needed to be treating these particular closings or transactions. And so I watched it through through other realtors too, and they having the same problems kind of closing these deals and treating them as though it's traditional real estate and we're all friends and we're buddy buddy. And really what it needs to be is very transactional, so that you're taking any sort of power struggle out of a process. And that's where I got into getting my actual designation and taking a lot of education on being the right fit for a divorcing couple.
I love that. And, just on brand as a real estate agent and as a CDRE, you're in your car, right? You're out there
I am.
in the field. And so this is like so authentic and genuine to the nature of what you do. Can you just tell us what a CDRE is briefly and how you apply that into your real estate profession?
Yes. So a CDRE is a certified real estate divorce expert. And so I have taken advanced training to have a curriculum vitae. I can be on a court order. I can go to court, testify. And not only that, I have taken an extensive amount of training to really have a proper intake with a client, that first call, that proper intake. And then I also I don't speak to the in spouse, maybe the one currently living in the house, or the out spouse, kind of what we, name as the person who's already moved out. I never speak to my clients together, always individually, and I do that to one, I give them the same information, but I do that in order to make them trust me, so that again, there is no sort of power struggle. It's just me helping them get into the next chapter. Some are very amicable still, and then some are very hostile. So it's a full gamut of situations, and so I have to be prepared and ready for all of those.
Yeah, and so that's just a great distinction, right? You never know at
Mhm.
that initial intake, and oftentimes these things can go swing one way or to the other. Start amicably and then swing
Yes.
the other way, but then also, start non-amicably and then move towards some resolution and collaboration. So I think that's a
Mhm.
really key element there. As a divorcing homeowner starting out on the path, what would you advise from the real estate perspective or anything that you've seen? Like, what would you, if you could go back in time and tell some of your clients, like, hey, you might have thought of this, or had you thought of this?
Mhm. I think the biggest factor is whether they have children in the house or not. And now I'm not someone who has children, so I am very particular to knowing, what's going on with that. Do the kids even know we're getting divorced, right? So if it's a transaction where there are kids, especially young kids, maybe they're this is the only house they've ever known, something like that. I am very in tune to not keeping them out of it, but in tune to making sure that the kids are not surprised by anything I do. I will never put a for sale sign in the front yard if the kids haven't been told we're divorcing. So I'm very in tune with what's going on, with the very fragile parts of their life, right? And then also too with what their attorney is saying. So each transaction is completely different, but what I would love for new clients to know is that you can tell me everything, and then I will, you know, graciously layer those details to make it again as stress-free as possible for you. So don't be afraid to let me know anything. But then also you're still selling your house, right? So there is some preparedness. So if you have things to sell and just get rid of, and you're not going to need them, do those things too.
Yeah, I think that right there is such a distinction between a real estate agent and a CDRE, right? Being the neutral advocate and being
Yes.
like professional that can hold that privacy really and with within compliance and within like integrity, right? And within discretion, I should say.
Absolutely. And then too, when it comes to that, I am neutral. So, I represent both spouses the same. So I have no bias to either spouse. I have no bias um, to what they're doing. So if one spouse maybe has a new boyfriend, a new fling, a new girlfriend, something like that, I never tell that to the other spouse when I'm talking to them. So I hold my neutrality very seriously in this case. I also let them know up front. This is not traditional real estate. This is divorce real estate, and I'm not going to be your friend right now. I am your professional, and I'm just going to get you into the next chapter. And then maybe in that next chapter in life, we can be friends. But right now, I am purely here to get you where you need to go. So setting up those boundaries with them, and then letting them know that it's okay to accept it, because again, it's not traditional real estate. It's a little bit different, but I'm certainly not here for my own commissions. It is to get these couples to where they need to be.
Yeah, that advisory role. I mean, I
Mhm.
think really key marker, right? Between like that real estate relationship, real
Yep.
estate relationship and client relationship. Yeah, schmooze around and yeah, go around the town. So I mean, I think that's really valuable. What do you think as divorcing homeowners should be looking for? And maybe that they're missing, or like when they're vetting a
Mhm.
CDRE, what should they be looking for?
I think you're really, even if I'm the only CDRE in Central Oregon, right? So if you're vetting real estate agents and maybe you haven't heard of me yet, or you just have some other agents out there, really what I would look for is someone who has been doing this a long time. A divorce transaction is not for new real estate agents. It is not. So I would look for someone who has done this a few times, and someone who is willing to be completely unbiased to both parties, because you cannot have a friend of a friend kind of do this and then be one-sided. So very, very important that your would-be real estate agent understands that they are going to be taking on both clients individually as a whole. Sounds a little different, but it really needs to be a broker who can take their ego out of it.
Yeah, and that's a huge bias to overcome if you've been in that
Yes.
traditional, if you're just entering also the real
Correct.
estate world, right? Like because you have client relationships, right? Buyer, seller,
Yes.
yeah. That's really great. And so do you have a memorable case maybe or a success or maybe a story that like you overcame something with clients or something that would be helpful to hear?
Yeah, and I did feel a little bit forward on one of these first ones, but it was a great overall outcome. We all learned together, and again, why I reached out to get the training I did. So when the attorney first called me, I didn't really know how to interact or what I needed to say to them to help, because if you think about it, some of our family law attorneys, maybe they've only sold one house before, and real estate just really isn't the lane that they do a lot. So to help educate the attorney would have been so vital for me. But again, I failed forward a little bit, kind of learned at the end, but it was so great that everyone was able to realize that, okay, maybe we can have a second conversation going on here. And so once we realized, oh, we're not all on the same page, having that secondary conversation and being able to say, like, I made a mistake the first time, and here, can we start over, and let's go from here, and then keep it just as neutral from that second conversation. So it was, I was grateful that, again, no one's ego was in it, and we were all able to say we made a mistake and move from there. So
Yeah, it is as like as a financial neutrals or real estate neutrals, predominantly or historically, I should say, the legal team has been kind of the guiding force, and we need to be able to also add our value and our zone of genius and expertise to that, right? Because this attorneys are not real estate professionals, they're not lending professionals, they're not up to date. They cannot be, right, by nature of what they're doing.
yeah, absolutely. And there's so many little ins and outs that go on through maybe the title process before we even list the home, or any of those little details that will make or break something, when you get into kind of the 11th hour of a transaction. So having all of that information up front and knowing what to ask of each other is key. And that's again where a CDRE is so helpful in this case, because they have already had all of that training. And again, the training I had was, first you have to be accepted into the program, then you have to kind of test each week, and you're having educational courses from current practicing family law attorneys, and so it really does get very, very in depth with why we communicate the way we do, and why we separate our clients the way we do. And again, it helps get to the close of the transaction with the least amount of stress for all parties involved.
Yeah, huge. I
Huge.
appreciate your insight on all of that. Is there anything that you want to add besides what I've asked you?
So I can do even refinances. I can help through mediation. I can really, what I like to tell any attorneys that I'm working with, paralegals, anything, if real estate is involved with a divorce, give me a call. Just let me in on what you're doing, and maybe I can give you a few nuggets of information as to what's going on. I can pull some CMAs before we need to. I can really be a helping hand, and it may or may not cost any money for them to give me that phone call right up front, and bring me into whatever it may be, whether it's mediation or not. So
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great path forward, both as a lender and both as an agent, that we are able to offer those ancillary but really valuable pieces of the process of the journey of the divorcing homeowner. Because yeah, you go to an attorney and you're immediately out of pocket, right? So
correct.
yeah, you can get a lot of that legwork, and it really makes for a better successful process for the legal team if you can do a lot of that upfront work for them.
Yes, it can happen much faster. We all know family law is a slow process, or it can be a slow process. And so to bring in a couple, um, a couple really, compelling layers to it can help you get the process done so much faster. Uh, and then again, just take the stress off of each person in the process. So.
Yes, definitely. Well, how can people find you?
So the easiest way is just to either email me. It's Andee, Andee .c.phillips@gmail.com, or my phone number, 541-788-8777. I always answer my phone unless I'm FaceTiming with my nieces. So.
Awesome. Can they find you on any of the social channels?
Oh, yes, sorry. I'm not huge on social media, but yes, you can. I am on LinkedIn, same Andee Phillips, and then also with my Facebook page, Andee Phillips Premier Property Group.
I love it.